Welcome to the Scoop Roller. I hope you guys had a great Thursday. We've got a huge new commitment we're going to get into. We got a huge nugget on BuckeyeScoop.com about people that are dominating the summer workouts. We're going to get into all that. As always, we appreciate you guys. If you guys enjoy this content, please leave us a like. Click subscribe. Also, click that little alert bell. We're going to break down our newest Buckeye who just committed recently in the last hour. Jarquez Carter is going to be a big-time guy, 6'2", 284 defensive tackle. Explosive, a guy that Larry Johnson loves, and is a guy that we beat a lot of the SEC schools on. So we're going to get into all of that, as always, with my partner in crime, Nevadabuck. Nevada, another good day. Got a kid out of Newberry, Florida. Good pull. Beat Miami, beat Florida State on this kid. Big-time kid, talented. We're going to talk, turn his film on in a second here. But what are your thoughts on Jarquez Carter? Again, 60 line commitments now. This is a very heavy D-line class, but I think Larry Johnson is trying to get as many talented bodies as he can into here. This kid's a high 4-star. He's a very explosive kid. But what are your thoughts on him?
Well, I thought that I've been told by people down that they believe that he's the best defensive lineman in the state of Florida. And you can say, oh, Nevada, that's hyperbole. I mean, he went to the rivals camp and he put up 225 pounds 27 times. Which, that's good. I mean, that's even for Kirk Barton as a young, senior in high school or whatever it would be. That's good strength. The comparisons for him, from the Ohio State people are Mike Hall. Leon Clark came out with a tweet today said Mike Hall 2.0. Same type of stature, same type of build. Obviously, if he could be, half the player that Mike is, we'd be really happy with him. But really good really good offer list. Great film, dynamic player. I mean, one of the players I wanted the most in this class, and a guy that, now you've got 6 defensive linemen. You're still in on Malik Autry. If Jaheim Stewart reclassified, which I don't think is going to happen, but you still got Malik Autry kind of looming out there. But 6 defensive line recruits in one class. I can't remember it ever happening like that before. And these guys are from all over. I mean, you've got kids from all over the United States in this defensive line class. What an epic haul by Larry Johnson, and just a great get. But I think this is going to be one of those ones. We get the commitment today, and I've contrasted it to when Justin Hill didn't commit to Ohio State. It was like a 35-page thread, and 1,000 replies or something. And Jarquez Carter replies, and I think it's like 32 replies, and it's like, we're so spoiled. I mean, we are just so spoiled as Ohio State fans, because this literally would be the second best player in all of Michigan's class. This would be the second best player in their entire class. And for us, it's just another ho-hum day at the office. Oh, well, just another 4-star defensive lineman, elite player out of the South that they're judging. We are spoiled as Ohio State fans, and but today was a good day, so definitely be excited.
Well, I think that you have to. Again, I know everybody is obsessed with star rankings and class evaluations because it's good fodder for recruiting. That's why, On3 and 247 make a bunch of money because of class rankings and that type of thing. But, I'd always go back and reevaluate, where do these guys end up when they're done in 3 to 5 years? I mean, so Mike Hall was a kid from Cleveland, 4-star type kid, really athletic kid, really a talented kid. But I don't know if he got the necessary national fanfare because his offer list wasn't Georgia, Bama. When we got him, it was we didn't beat Georgia and Bama. So if you don't beat Georgia and Bama, automatically high 3-star, 4-star type kid. But in reality, you look at him after 3 years, he goes second round in the draft. He's the kind of guy in college. Frankly, was underwhelming, in my opinion. I thought Mike Hall would have been much more dominant, but he was not. But in the National Football League, the way that the throwing game is so prevalent, 80 throws, 75 throws a game, he's the kind of guy that'll get a huge second deal. He's the kind of guy that will be an upfield disruptor, really twitched up. He was a little frail at Ohio State. I'm not going to, mince words, but he was fragile. He was a guy that was hurt a lot, and he was a guy that, frankly, last year when he was a sophomore was not in the rotation, which I thought was a crime against humanity because we played guys like Jerron Cage and a couple other guys that, frankly, couldn't play. And we left a guy who ended up leaving after 3 years as a second rounder on the bench for the majority of the time. And again, that was that was my biggest beef. And again, I love Larry Johnson to death, and he's forgotten more about defensive line play than I'll ever know. But his rotations were trash. They weren't Tony Alford bad, but they were bad. And a guy like Tyleik, a guy like Mike Hall, you have two guys that are second rounders. Like, I mean, Tyleik on his worst day is a second round pick. On his best day, he's a high first round pick, mid first round pick. If he keeps his weight under control, keeps his twitch up, I think that he's going to be a special talent and a guy that's coveted in the draft because, when you get those big, heavy guys that are twitched up and can run elite 10-yard splits in the 40-yard dash, and they can run 1.60 and like what Tyleik can run, then those are guys that make a lot of money and they're disruptive and they're guys that are 3-down guys. The problem with a lot of guys that are Tyleik size that are 330 is they're not 3-down. They're not 3-down guys. They're 2-down guys. They play first and second down, play the run, play the play action pass the second down, and then on third down they come off the field and they bring in a more athletic guy on third down. But this is a kid, who we're recruiting, who I think is he has the kind of Mike Hall upside because again he's switched up, he's athletic, he's tough. Again, like if a guy's a 3-star based off of Rivals and 247 and On 3 and a bunch of recruiting services where a bunch of guys who've never played football, they never coached football, they don't really know football, are assigning those rankings versus, Larry Johnson's offering this guy a full scholarship. Like, I give a lot more weight to LJ because if LJ offers him, I think he's automatically a 4-star, if not a 5-star, because he's not just taking guys to take guys. And, when these coaches offer guys, their livelihood is at stake. If someone assigns a 3 or 4-star ranking and they work for Rivals or On 3 or 247, it's just, it's because they kind of have to do it. And okay, this guy's from Ohio or this guy's from Florida or this guy, but it's not the same as like if Ohio State offers you, I think you're automatically a 4-star, if not a 5-star, just because of, those coaches have been around the block. Like LJ's not taking, these coaches, again, you have to get to the deepness of this is when a coach offers you at Ohio State, he is basically signing his name on your name that, if he projects you to be good enough to keep his family in that city, because again, if you take too many guys that you sign your name to just because you're trying to fill a class or you're trying to chase star rankings, then all of a sudden you're just like, well, our guys didn't pan out. And then Ryan Day has to make a decision. He has to fire guys. So guys have to, uproot, sell their house, move to, other parts of the country. And you've seen that over the last 3-4 years where, Ryan's not scared to fire a guy that underperforms or a guy that isn't carrying his weight in the recruiting circle. So I think that, with LJ believing in this kid, it makes me believe in him. Because again, I've seen the type of guys that LJ recruits, the type of guys that are, the dominating forces that he's had in his room. And I think this is a kid that people should be excited about. Again, I know that there are people that are obsessed with star chasing and, oh my God, this guy's a 3-star, 4-star, whatever. But, if LJ wants him, there's something to it. He's not just taking a guy to fill up a chair in his room. He's taking him because he thinks this guy could be another Mike Hall. And again, Mike Hall, go back and look when he got recruited. Go back and look at his ratings. Like nobody was like, oh my God, this is the be-all, end-all. But dude was a second-round pick, man. If you can get a second-round pick, like to me, first second-round pick's a 5-star immediately, instantly. But Mike didn't get that adulation. I think, again, this is different. This kid from Florida, but the kids from Ohio, I don't think they get the type of adulation the kids from Georgia and Florida and Texas do. But it's just my opinion. And I think I'm right because, Mike Hall was a very good player, a kid that I thought was underutilized criminally at Ohio State over the last 2 years. But he'll have a bright career in the NFL. And I think his second contract will be absolutely massive if he can do what I think he's going to be able to do. Nevada, what are your thoughts on that? Because again, I think that, again, and I'm biased and I've lived it, but when someone gets that Ohio State offer, I think that they're immediately, in my head, a 4-star, 5-star type guy because, these coaches are doing the evals and they're not just taking a guy to take a guy in general. Now, sometimes, if you get to the very, very last week of the class and you got 1 or 2 scholars left, you might throw it out to somebody. But I think in general, like when it's this early, I mean, we're not even to August yet, to take a kid like this and you already have 60 linemen committed, I think that it thinks that Larry thinks this guy's got something to him. What are your thoughts?
Well, yeah, I think that you've got to look at rankings through the prism of two different ways. You look at rankings through a macro lens and say, in general, I think rankings do a pretty good job of ranking guys in terms of 3 stars, 4 stars, 5 stars. 5 stars have a higher chance of success than four, and higher than three, et cetera, et cetera. But then when you look at the micro level, that when you look at guys going to Ohio State, guys going to Georgia, guys going to the elite schools, I mean, the elite school guys do a better job than the recruiting analysts do because they have more resources, because they've got more experience. Because I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you think about it, Larry Johnson's been doing this for 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. He knows what he's looking for in terms of a guy. He knows what the little. It's like pattern recognition. What do you see in this guy
Mm-hmm.
that reminds you of somebody else who had success at the next level? And Larry's seen this thing so repetitively, so many times that that's why he's good at it. That's why he's good at his job. That's why he's paid. One of the reasons why he's paid $1 million or $1.8 million or whatever he's paid to coach the defensive line. And then you contrast that to these recruiting analysts, and these might be guys right out of high school or right out of college, or guys that never played or have been doing it for 2 years. And before that, they worked at a Whataburger franchise or what, like you don't know what these guys' background is in terms of doing this stuff. So I think that it just, the rankings are not, they're not irrelevant from a big picture standpoint. But when you get down to it, man, like you said, you look at it's like you're looking for context clues. You're looking at it and kind of go, okay, this guy's got an offer from Ohio State. All right, that's impressive. He's got an offer from Ohio State and Florida and Miami and Florida State and others just go, okay, that's important. Oh, Ohio State is not struggling in recruiting. Okay, that's the Ohio State's not recruiting, struggling in defensive recruiting. Yeah, that's one. Ohio State is certainly not struggling in defensive recruiting on the defensive line. They've already got 5 guys, so they're not just reaching for Plan B fruit. So when you add all those things
Like I
together,
said,
I think I think you can come up with a conclusion where you go, this guy's a 4 or 5 star type of talent based upon all those context clues, and that's how I evaluate it. If Ohio State's reaching because they've missed on 9 other guys and they got it, then maybe you look at it differently. But the way Ohio State's been going on recruiting right now, and the way they're offering this guy and doing it, and how excited they are, I think this kid's going to be. I'm excited about every recruit, but this is a guy I bet money on that he's going to do well. I really think he's going to be a big timer.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he's got a lot of upside. Again, in the modern era of college football, where it's pass rush and more pass rush, it's a deal where I think that he's got a chance to be special, just because you've got this kind of anxiety to get after the quarterback, and I think that he's got that in droves. So again, that's what Mike Hall, who was a second round pick and kind of undervalued at Ohio State, I think that's going to be his calling card. Is when he gets to the league and he gets again, like he's going to be, he's going to be a jag. He's going to be the ultimate jag. It's like, I mean, you want to talk about living in heaven? Try having your two defensive ends being Myles Garrett and Zadarius Smith. I mean, nobody will even know that you exist. Like, they don't even know that you're on the team. And he'll go in there versus some poor hapless guard, and they'll never scheme against him. And he'll get 10 sacks as a rookie, and then he'll get 10 more as a second-year guy. And then year 3 is going to come around. He's going to get a huge extension and might be a franchise tag guy, because I just think that's his trajectory. Again, like you say, Kirk, when you're a young, 275-pound defensive tackle that runs a 4.7 and is an upfield presence, like what team do you want to go to? I'd say Cleveland Browns. Why? Myles Garrett. Like, I mean, do you think any offensive line coach or offensive coordinator or head coach in the universe cares about Mike Hall when they've got to stop Myles Garrett, who's maybe the best defensive end that's ever lived? I don't think so. So I think that the circumstance here, when you see the guys that Larry's recruiting with the big time pass rushers, the guys that are monsters, I think that those traits they'll carry through and they'll be good. And again, these kids that are in high school, again, this is not a dig at high school coaches, because I think high school coaches that coach football are the most selfless, greatest human beings in the world. But they also have to teach. They also have to be, hall monitors, or they have to do whatever. And when you get to college, man, you have a professional coach, a professional D-line coach who's a technician, expert, especially when you have LJ. LJ is the greatest who's ever done it. So you go from, being developed by a guy who's trying to learn the profession and trying to also do, teach history or whatever during the day, to a guy who's a full-time, technical coach. Like, you go to Ohio State and all of a sudden you work for Larry Johnson with Mickey Marotti. Like, your potential, if you have the physical traits to be dominant, the speed, the 10-field split, the initial strength, the power, like, there's no real ceiling on what you can do. So that's why I'm excited about a kid like this. And again, that's why, like, when Ohio State takes a project and people are, oh my God, how are we ever going to start? I'm like, well, let Mickey get with them. I mean, Mickey Marotti is the greatest strength coach who's ever lived. And then you get, these coaches, from Brian Hartline to Larry Johnson to James Laurinaitis to Tim Walton. Like, we have some of the best position coaches that have ever been around college football. So again, like, that's not being, a homer, because again, you guys know that I'm just honest. I mean, there's a podcast you guys can listen to that's more honest in terms of dealing with Ohio State than Nevada and I, where we say, hey, this guy's good, this guy's a little shaky, this guy's struggling a little bit. There's a lot of variables that go through everything, but the way we diagnose everything, I'm just like, look, this guy's got a chance to be really good. And with what Larry Johnson could do to guys that are young kids, I've seen it. I've seen him develop Tyleek, Mike Hall. Obviously, Jack and JT were 2 5-star guys, so that's a little bit different. It's a different story. But just go ask Joey and Nick Bosa what they think of the stuff that he clinics on, and you've seen guys like Tom Bahali and some of these older guys that play from even at Penn State come back to the Woody Hayes and do summer training with him when he's been in the WAC for a few years. I mean, his guys from other places will come in just to get a little bit more teaching, a little bit more correction, a little bit more off-season work done with LJ. So again, I think that a guy like this is going to be substantial. Well, Nevada, you had a great nugget on BuckeyeScoop.com today about the inner workings of the team this summer, Will Hart and Chip Kelly's chemistry, some of the stars of summer. Where do you want to start? Because again, I thought your Chip Kelly and Will Hart part was very interesting, talking about their experience in the Pac-12 along with the Big 12. With Will Hart and Chip, they were in 2 separate conferences, but I think there's a lot more similarities between the Big 12 and Pac-12 last year than there was the Big 10. But what were some of the gleanings you got from the second Wiseman? Because again, I thought that was a fantastic nugget today.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, a lot of it was focused on strength and conditions. I want to start off by asking you a question, and then we'll get a little bit more to the nugget. But
oh God,
what if you had to summarize in whatever, what makes Mickey different? I mean, obviously there's a lot of strength and conditioning coaches out there that know a lot, that you do a lot of clinics and have. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's smart guys that are doing it. Yeah. Why you said that Mickey Marotti's the best that's ever done it in your opinion, or up there? He's on the Mount Rushmore. What is it about Mickey that makes him different in your opinion?
I think he's an expert at there is such, like, I'm talking like you talking fishing wire, razor wire, whatever is the thinnest wire you can imagine in your life. There is such a short, thin tightrope that you have to walk when you're a strength coach between being a true hard strength coach versus being like a loving, homey, want to be your boy type guy. And that is, in my opinion, and again, I've been around a lot of strength coaches between my time at Ohio State, time in the NFL, time talking to agents, talking to whoever, studying the game. I was a big time strength training guy when I was in the league and at Ohio State. I mean, I was the strongest guy on most of the teams I was on, and I loved getting to know the strength coaches and what makes them tick and what makes them great. The thing about Mickey is he's really good at, like, not just being a total, Marine Corps boot camp douchebag type guy versus being a guy who's he's the guy that can be like friendly. He's the guy that, I don't know many players that can outright say, I hate Mickey Marotti. He's a douchebag. He acts like a moron. He's too hard on us, like whatever. Versus, Mickey's too much of a homie. Because again, I was around strength coaches. I played for strength coaches that wanted to be a homie with everybody and dap guys up and this stuff and selling Advocare and all that kind of stuff. But like, then there's also, at some point, like if you do that, again, Urban was excellent about it because Urban was always like, look, I want coaches on my stuff. I don't want people that are friends with their players and whatever. So, but there has to be some sort of trust. There has to be a trust. There has to be, I don't want to say drill sergeant, but that's something that I think just reverberates with people when I say that. You got to have a little bit of that mentality, a little bit of that drill sergeantness, but you also have to, the kids have to trust you. Because again, like, a lot of these kids are, you get to them freshmen, man, they're coming from Florida and Cleveland and every other part of the country. And they all get homesick. They all get sad. They all get depressed. They all get, oh, golly gee whiz, this is way harder than I thought it was during my official visit when I was eating steaks with butter and fillets and seafood towers and the rest. So I think you really have to measure that. And I think Mickey is the greatest expert that's ever lived on measuring the distinction between being tough as nails, hard as a rock, versus, being the caring, comforting guy. He is the best there's ever been at that. And again, I love Mickey, and I wish he was my strength coach when I would have played at Ohio State, because I think that we would have won the 06 and 07 championships. I think he was the difference in the game in 06. Like, I mean, he was better than what we had. He was very, very on point. He had, the thing about him with Urban, you have him and Urban together. I mean, the teams knew how to peak. The teams knew how to, hit that accelerator at the right time. Because there's an art to it. It's not just, let's just put our foot to the ground. And a lot of you guys have driven cars or fast cars or whatever. You can't just put your foot on the hammer the whole time and, okay, let's just hope that it works out. Like with Mickey, I mean, he kept guys fresh, but he also kept the foot on their throat. Again, I go back to Zach Bourne and Bino and those guys in 2012. Like the dumbest thing of all time was when Zach Bourne and Bino and those guys walked into Urban's office the week of the Miami of Ohio game and asked Urban Meyer to take it a little bit more easy on us. Hey, Coach, can you let up a little bit? Our legs are sore, a little bit tired, not feeling too good. And Urban like heard that, and it was like Mount Vesuvius in the Woody Hayes. And again, he came into our staff meeting and he went ballistic on the staff, on everything. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, look, I was here last year, but I don't want you to turn down. Like, you do whatever. I mean, we lost. I mean, I told him, I'm like, look, we lost 7 games last year. So if you guys want to throw these guys off a cliff, I'm fine with it. Because you lose 7 games, like you can't go back to, oh, we won the Big Ten 2 years ago or 3 years ago. We won the Sugar Bowl 2 years ago. Like, you lose 7 the previous year. If Urban Meyer wanted to throw him off the top of Ohio Stadium, I was fine with it, because whatever he wanted to do, it worked. Now, that's just where I was. And so when those guys walked in and they said, Bino and Zach Bourne, they walked in and said, can you make this a little bit easier and a little too hard, and our legs are sore and we don't feel too good. And I was like, you guys are so stupid. But Mickey was the master of like, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to turn up a little bit, because Urban's right hand was Mickey. So he would go right to Mickey and say, can you believe they said that? And Mickey'd be like, oh, we're going to turn up even harder. It's going to be even worse. It's going to be tougher, and we're going to put the hammer down. And sure as can be, the way those guys guided it, we ended up being 12-0, and we won whatever stupid division thing. So we got rings for winning the leaders division that year, because we couldn't go to a bowl game, we couldn't go to the national championship. So that was the best we could do. But
whoa. You got a ring for winning the leaders. You got a leaders division ring
for going 12-0. We got a ring. Yes, we did. Absolutely. Which I don't wear, and I don't even know what it is.
Where is that ring? You wear it like around your neck on like a little chain.
I think it's in it might be my toilet. I mean, honestly, Nevada, if you offered me 10, you offered me $100 million. Say, Kirk, can you produce your 12 in a ring? I have no idea where it is. I can't find it. I never cared about it. Like if you don't win the Big Ten, you shouldn't get a ring. And again, that's what, we're in this soft pillow culture where we give guys rings for winning like anything now. And it's like, in 03, again, my freshman year, the reason why I will love Ohio State forever, and again, I hope this doesn't change with our soft, stupid culture that we have now, is in 03, we beat Kansas State in the Fiesta Bowl. And again, mind you, if most programs won the Fiesta Bowl, which was, that's a BCS game, 2 top 10 or top 8 teams in the bowl game. We won the Fiesta Bowl. We did not get rings. And I was like, and me being stupid, I'm like, well, are we going to get a ring for this? Nope. We didn't win the Big Ten. And again, we're probably the only team in the entire Big Ten that does that, but we did not get a ring. And again, I'll never forget the lowest moment in Ohio State history is when Gene Smith, who, again, thank God he's gone, and what a moron, had us play in the Gator Bowl as a 6-6 Ohio State team, and we lose to a terrible Florida Gators team. So it was like 2 6-6 teams playing in the Tax Slayer Jacksonville Gator Bowl. And, we lost that game. So we finished 6-7. We got rings for going 6-7 at Ohio State. And I was like, this is the lowest form of humanity I've ever seen. I didn't even accept I told Greg Gillum, who's an idiot, and he works for Wisconsin now, I said, give whatever this ring costs, if it's $300 or $350, because the coaches all got free rings. And I literally said, give it to an intern. I don't want it. Do not put my name on a 6-7 ring. And I swear to Christ, I mean, you can ask him. You can go ask Joss's if they ever made me a ring for being 6-7. Because I was like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. And again, there are guys that wear that. There's guys that put that in their fashion case next to the Big Ten championship rings. I swear to God. And I was like, we're giving out rings for being 6-7, but it's where we are in humanity, I guess. But I was so beside myself that we were giving out rings for, 6-6 playing in a game that was like New Year's Day versus a 6-6 program. The coaches are all fired. Again, if we had an athletic director that had any sort of a brain in his head, he'd have said, we're not playing in a game. Because Mike Brewster, all those seniors didn't want to play in that game. And 85% of the coaching staff was fired. So they didn't care about things. So you have seniors that don't want to play, and then you have coaches that are fired. So, again, most of you guys can relate. If your boss fired you today and said, hey, you have to show up to work on Friday and Saturday, like, are you guys going to be real excited? Are you guys going to game plan real hard? Are you guys going to work real hard? Probably not. If you're getting the bullets ahead and, hey, by the way, your successor will be in the office at the same time as you, you're probably not going to show up and say, well, golly gee whiz, this is a great day. I'm going to work really hard and, may the chips fall where they may. But that's what the Gator Bowl was. And again, we got a ring for that game, which, again, in the history of Ohio State, the only moment that was lower was the fact that we claimed the 1970 national championship, where we lost. We lost our bowl game, but there was some wackadoo poll that said, "Oh, we're number 1 in the nation, so you're a national champion." That happened in like November, and then we go out and we lose our bowl game, and we're like crowned. We have that on the side of our stadium. We're crowned national champions in 1970. So again, I don't know. And again, I'm old fashioned. Maybe I'm just, you guys say, oh, Kirk, you're a hater, you're dumb. But if you lose your bowl game, you can't be a national champion. I'm sorry. It's kind of, standard bearer. Because again, I've said before, Nevada makes fun of me every day. 06, 07, we were the 1 seed in both games. So that's 2 natties, but I have none. So it is what it is.
But Kirk, next time we go out, can you wear your Leaders and Legends ring or whatever it is? The one that
I don't. I swear to God, I don't have it. I mean, I don't know if my kids flush my rings down the toilet, but I honestly don't know where any of my rings are. I really don't. My kids have my gold, or my mom has 2 pairs of gold pants. My sister has 2 pairs of gold pants. I've got 2 that are here somewhere. But I think I know where like one of my rings, like the '06 ring. I don't know where a bunch of my rings are because again, I don't wear them because, that's just not me. Again, a lot of you guys don't know me. You guys, Kirk, the guy on the podcast and stuff, but like my son who just turned 7 yesterday. Happy birthday, Kirk Anthony. I love you to death. He doesn't realize that like I really played that much football. And he's like, Daddy, were you any good? And I was like, well, I was okay. But like I don't have my jerseys hanging up. I don't have my helmets, prominently displayed. I don't, because this is, it's in the past. And again, the guys that wear their rings now that are my age, it's almost sad in my head, or they wear their gold pants around their necks, or they wear their jerseys to the game. Like I don't know. Like it's over, guys. Like it's like a lot of you guys, you're not going to wear your high school football jersey to the high school football game, but we've got guys that's their livelihood. So kind of is what it is. Well, Nevada, in this nugget you talked.
No, hold on. Last time I was little Kirk, he's like, Uncle Nevada, my daddy wants to wear his Leaders and Legends ring around. Can you help me find it? And I'm like, look, Kirk, just tell him to let it go. You know what I'm saying?
Tell him the party's over. That Leaders and Legends ring will get that and Grandpa Nevada's that Leaders and Legends and Grandpa Nevada's Amex will get you a London broil with what do you get? A beef Wellington with a full strength Coke at the Gordon Ramsay's shop or wherever we go.
When little Kirky turns 21, I'm taking him to Vegas with me with Uncle Nevada. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go get beef Wellington together. It's gonna be super awesome.
Oh, I'll love it because by then you'll be like the old guys at the end of the casino with the little oxygen tanks, and I'll have a little wheelchair, and we'll throw you right in the fountains and say, "Oh, swim! Oh, you're laughing about all." I'll put my 6 gold pants around your neck when I throw you in the Bellagio fountains. You're like, "Oh, I can't survive! Oh, what time are we gonna podcast? Oh, we're late tonight! Ooh." Oh my God!
We're gonna have to move our podcast up to like 4 o'clock in the afternoon or something like that.
No, I know. We'll be an extra 30 minutes late. I mean, and again, I don't want to go into this, but like I love Best Buy to death because like the Best Buy people have been so good to me. The tech squad and the Magnolia people, but like they had, I got a new monitor for my little setup, and they said, "Oh, it's ready to go," and I gave them an extra hour. I get to the Best Buy, man. It took them 90 minutes to find the monitor that they said that they had. I'm like, I'm sitting on the counter, like I'm like, oh my God, this is so bad. So I apologize for being late tonight, but it was a little bit of a snafu on Best Buy's part. And then they wheel it out, and it's not even in a box. And I was like, well, I bought it, and they said it was new, and oh no, it's open box, and it's in styrofoam peanuts and wrapped in saran wrap. I mean, then they put it in my car and it's like scratching my ceiling. I'm like, oh my God, what a disaster. I was like, you guys said you guys had it in stock. It's like, oh no, we did, but it was open box. I was like, well, I'm going to probably, I'll test it out for a night, but I'm probably going to return it because you guys just destroyed my car. But it is what it is. Love you guys to death. Sorry for being late tonight. Nevada, as we get into your nugget, the nugget was interesting because you talked about Will Howard, Chip Kelly. I think with Chip and Will, those guys have got a very interesting little relationship. Chip was in the Pac-12 the last few years. Obviously, Will Howard was in the Big 12 with Kansas State. Talked a lot about some interesting defenses that they saw because of the styles of offense. And again, I think that an easy way for me to relate it is like, people for years, maybe not the last, 10 years, 10 years ago, like European basketball was much different than NBA basketball back when they had Tim Duncan and, the big time post players and back to the basket and that type of thing versus European basketball where it was like, the bigs like shot threes and it was more motion offense and more fluid and that type of deal. That's kind of what it's like with the Big 10 versus the Pac-12 and the Big 12. I feel like the Big 12 is like what European basketball used to be, where it's like everybody can do everything, more spread out, more action. athleticism, whatever. So, a lot of these defenses in the Big 12 were 3-3-5, 3-2, 6. These really funky defenses, basically to combat the spread offense. They're trying to figure out ways to stop the basketball and grass, the 3 wide, the 4 wide, the horizontal runs. A lot of the stuff that was prevalent in the Big 12, because I think that, the athletes of the Big 12 are good, but it's not as physical. It's not as tough. It's not as, frankly, talented as the Big 10, in my opinion. But I think that, when you've got 8 guys standing up, it leads to a lot more of an ability to confuse your people. Because again, when you have 4 down and you've got 2 linebackers or 3 linebackers and you've got the 4 secondary guys, there's only so many things you can do. But when you go 3 down and it's a 3 down, 3 high look, you've got 8 guys that could potentially blitz. So it makes it a lot more varied. I think that's something that Will Howard is going to be really. He's blessed because he experienced that first where he had to decipher defenses that frankly weren't very easy to decipher. Now he goes into the Big 10 where it's a lot more structured 4-2-5 nickel defense. Talk a little bit about how he's bonded with Chip Kelly during that tenure, because I thought that was fascinating when we talked about how Chip Kelly came from the Pac-12, a lot more spread out. Big 12, a lot more spread out. Big 10, much more, I don't want to say static, but a lot, I don't want to say it's easier to defend either, but, when you have better players, you don't have to do as many gyrations, I guess you could say, as opposed to, when you're in the Big 12 and you got a lot of smaller guys, medium-sized guys, you have to figure out how to manage them. But what were your thoughts on that? Because I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah, no, the second Wiseman made a great point and some really great insight about how Chip and Will have really kind of bonded over the fact that they both have kind of cut their teeth, in conferences where, like you said, they had to take more chances. They had to play 3-1-7s and 3-2-6s and other things because they frankly didn't have the athletes and the athletic ability that you have at the more traditional schools that can play a more traditional type of set like a 4-2-5 or something like that. So for Will Howard, while he was playing against inferior athletes, he's having to make some pretty exotic reads because guys are coming from all over the place in the Big 12, and it's not easy to scheme up against, not easy to pre-snap recognition is more difficult, and there's a lot of things that are more difficult. Now again, the flip side of that is now you're in the Big 10, you're playing against way better athletes, and you're playing with way better athletes, so that changes it. But for Chip and Will, they've really kind of bonded over that stuff because they're both experienced with that. They're both experienced with facing these kind of, dare I say, gimmicky type of defenses. And now as they're kind of going through this helmet communication thing, they're kind of working through the reads. They've been working through this all summer and through the spring camp. These guys really understand each other because they have a common background, because they face it. And for Will Howard, I think that's really going to be something that's going to really help him out this year because he's seen it all, man. This guy has seen it all. There's, that old rule about you have to have X number of starts in college football to translate to NFL success. It's all about pattern recognition. It's all about, experience, being able to see things, knowing what's going to happen in terms of that. Well, Will Howard's had 39 starts under his belt. So he's one of the most experienced quarterbacks in all of college football. And now, you've got him with Chip Kelly, one of the great offensive masterminds. Both of them are used to seeing these stuff from all over, and now Chip's able to be in Will's head up to 15 seconds before the ball snapped. I think it's really going to be magical when we see it. And I think anybody sleeping on Will Howard is making a huge mistake. Because when they talk about Will Howard, it's not when I hear question marks about Ohio State, it always starts with the quarterback, and I'm like, man, I am not worried about the quarterback position at all. And I think Will Howard is going to have a great, not just a good year. I think he's going to have a great year for Ohio State, and I think he's going to be a terrific quarterback. Will he be perfect? Will he never turn the ball over? Of course not. But he's going to do a lot of things. He's going to do a lot of big things. He can do a lot of little things that help this Ohio State offense move. And I think this Ohio State offense is going to be darn near unstoppable.
Yeah, I think Will Howard's going to be fantastic this year. Again, I think that people that talk about him losing his job at Kansas State, they're not really reading the tea leaves or paying attention or whatever. Because again, I can say whatever I want, and I can say all kinds of things. Oh, Kirk, you're a homer, you're a fanboy. Ryan Day offered this guy a ton of money to come here, and again, this is for Ryan Day, he's coaching for his career this year because he's got a team that's absolutely loaded. The expectations are, I don't say they're the highest in Ohio State history, but this is like 98. This is like 2015. This is one of those years, 2005 team I was a part of where, we've got a team that we need to cash in. This is a team, Ryan Day's got 4 aces in his hand right now. So you got to figure out a way to cash that thing in. You got 4 aces. You can't go bust. You can't go all in and go broke. I mean, you got to cash this one in. You don't get teams like this every year. So Ryan, when, the easy thing to do last year, Kyle McCord, third team All Big Ten and close and throwing at the end zone versus Michigan. The easy thing to just keep Kyle McCord. Kyle, okay, we'll make you the starter. We'll pay you, high 6 figures, if not low 7 figures to be our quarterback, whatever. But, Ryan, and again, Ryan and I don't see eye to eye all the time. I think he's a good man. I think he does a good job. We share that, we lost our dads as young kids early, so that's something we've always bonded over. But the thing that I give him the most credit in the world for is if that quarterback room isn't where he wants it to be, he will put the hammer down to get it where it needs to go. And if that means hurting feelings, that means hurting Derek McCord's feelings and Kyle McCord's feelings, and they march into his office and say, you got to name my kid the starter, and you got to pay him all this money and whatever. Ryan told him to go pound salt. And again, I give Ryan credit for that because Ryan thought this is not the guy that's going to get us where we need to go. So let's go find the guy that can do that. And he went after Cam Ward, went after Will Howard. Will Howard was a guy that some of the hacks at On3, their USC site were crystal balling or RPMing or whatever him to SC. And we broke the Will Howard stuff, and we broke it on our site. And then 3 weeks later, we broke it again on Zach's podcast where I said, hey, this guy's coming. It's over. I mean, he met with him in Dallas when he didn't have to. Oh, excuse me. And give me 1 second. Sorry. That's great. Apologize. So I get for having a little bit of an anxious foot. I accidentally kicked my power off. I apologize, guys. But he's the guy that he's got conviction, and I give Ryan credit for that because when he's got a guy in mind and he does it, it turns into it could turn into a home run for us. And this is a year where with Quinshon Judkins and J.J. Smith and the new weapons, along with Emeka and Carnell Tate and Brandon Ennis, this is a year you got to cash this thing in pretty quick. So, like I said, I'm excited about it. I think it's going to be a huge year. Nevada, your thoughts? Because again, I know it's always easy to go back to the incumbent. And again, Kyle McCord was a guy that I was critical of. I know you were critical of him, maybe not as much as I was, but he's the guy that was I didn't think he was a winner. I thought against Notre Dame he was scared to death. We escaped by the skin of our teeth. Against Michigan he was putrid. And again, I don't have anything vested. I think that a lot of the local Ohio State media was very pro Kyle McCord because Derek McCord was the biggest source on the entire Ohio State beat last year. So they're all, let's go Kyle, and he's great. But I didn't see it, and I've been around the only guy in the history of the Big Ten that won the Heisman. I've been around good quarterbacks in the NFL. But what were your thoughts? Because I mean, like Ryan doing that was a pretty substantial move. But I give Ryan a lot of credit for that because that took balls to move on from a guy that was a third team All Big Ten guy with another year of eligibility. But he did it. What are your thoughts?
Well, I thought Kyle McCord was fine. I thought he was good enough for us to win last year. We came really, really close. As you said, we were thrown into the end zone to beat Michigan and be the number 1 seed in the college football playoff and probably win the national championship. So, we weren't as far away as people might think. But having said that, when Kyle McCord left Ohio State, whatever the circumstances, whether he demanded to start, whether he asked to start, whether he asked for a guarantee, whatever the circumstances were, he went on the open market, and the best place he could land was Syracuse.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's what's known as a fact not in dispute. Everything else is a hypothetical and an opinion and everything else like that. But he ended up at Syracuse, and Syracuse hasn't been good at football in a really long. Donovan McNabb isn't going through the thing, or Ernie Davis or whatever. I mean, like, they haven't been good at football in a really, really long time. And the fact that that's the place that he ended up at tells you what everybody else's opinion is about Kyle McCord. So I think for Ohio State, did they upgrade? I mean, without a doubt. Did they upgrade in a Chip Kelly offense where running the quarterback is paramount? In a Chip Kelly offense, the quarterback has to run. Absolutely has to run. And there has never been Todd Beckman looked fleet of foot compared to Kyle McCord. Todd Beckman had better pocket presence than Kyle McCord. Burt Carton would have better pocket presence than Kyle McCord. And so I think that we've upgraded. I don't have any. I like Kyle McCord. He never did anything to me. He tried hard. He did his best. He might make an NFL team. If Kyle Clifford can make an NFL team and carry a clipboard and stuff, why can't Kyle McCord someday? So who knows? But I definitely know that we upgraded. And in a national championship year, do I want Will Howard and his 39 starts and his 6'4", 230-pound frame or whatever he is, or do I want Kyle McCord? Man, it is an easy choice. And I think Ryan Day, who I don't always agree with, I think this was an A+ decision by him in a national championship year.
Yeah, I mean, again, like, Kyle was the guy that most of the team loved and thought he was a good guy and stuff. But again, I'm different because, like, I like, being liked is great, but being great is way better than being liked. People would always say, people have asked me before, is it better? I was a captain and I was a first-team All-American. Would you rather be a captain or a first-team All-American? And I'm like, first-team All-American, any day of the week, every day of the year, and especially on 17 Saturdays a year. I'd rather be an All-American because, like, I never cared about being liked. I still don't care about being liked. I'd rather be great and be known for what I do and giving an opinion. And again, like, we give you guys the best information in the stratosphere for Ohio State football. And again, it's not always popular. It's not always team speak. It's not always deep state, Ohio State, controlled media. But the stuff that we give you guys is exceptionally accurate, and it's very, very well thought out, and it's something that, like, I pride myself on. Again, I'm on the phones all day talking to try to get you guys the best, most up to date stuff that's going on in the Ohio State world, and it's just what we do. So, like, for Kyle McCord, like, it's nothing personal. Like, again, like, was his dad like the dad on Varsity Blues? Yes, of course, the guy that Johnny Moxon. He said, I don't want your life. That was Derek McCord. Derek McCord played at Rutgers, never made it to the league, thought he should have made it to the league, was living through his kid. And again, I don't care about Derek McCord. He's irrelevant to me, but he was that dad, which is fine. And again, I don't care. And again, when his kid, you are what people will pay you. You are what people will offer you. And, he thought he was going to Nebraska. They pulled the rug out from under him. They took Dylan Raiola late. There was another team that thought they liked him and they pulled the rug out from under him. He ends up at Syracuse, which was their last game they played. Vaunted South Florida, lost 45-0. So and again, this is not pot shots, poking fun, whatever. But to me, like, if he would have gone to USC or Bama or Georgia or Florida or Miami or Florida State or South Carolina or somewhere, then I was okay, wow, we might have missed out on something. But when he ends up at Syracuse, who lost their last game 45-rip to South Florida, then he ends up with a new coaching staff and whatever, then okay, like, I think that Ryan did the right thing. And I think that Will Howard, again, at the end of the day, like, Will Howard won a conference championship at Kansas State. Kansas State, has had, an incredible run of coaches. When we play them in 03, they're not dotted with 5-star and high 4-star type kids. They're all 3 and 2 stars to go to Kansas. Manhattan, Kansas that might as well be Siberia for like middle America, but they get guys that can play. They play tough. They're wicked smart. They do a great job. Again, we played them in 03 and they beat Oklahoma like 55-21 before we played them in that Fiesta Bowl. And they're a tough out, but their talent is lacking. They've had one Jordy Nelson in the last 20 years, and Al Roberson. Darren Sproles obviously is probably the best player in their school history, but he played 20 years ago. You go to Ohio State and it's like every year you've got a better tailback than the last. So I think Will Howard's got a feast. A guy that can win the Big 12, which again, when you're at Kansas State, you're playing against Oklahoma and Texas and Oklahoma State and teams that are much, much, much more talented than you. Even Iowa State, David Montgomery, Brock Purdy, like really, really good players. He still won the Big 12 with all that talent. So, when this kid gets into Ohio State, JJ, and, Ennis and Mecca and a good O-line, and the biggest thing is, more than all those guys, like he's got Michael Jordan calling the plays now. He's got Chip Kelly, who's the best coordinator that maybe has ever lived in college football, running the show. And again, I can't wait to see our running game, how diverse it's going to be. I can't wait to see how he messes with teams in the Big Ten, especially like early in the conference season when you're playing Akron and Western Michigan. Like Chip Kelly is going to throw the kitchen sink at those teams just to show stuff that is going to make Penn State prepare for it and Oregon prepare for it and Michigan. And he's going to show all kinds of crazy, wild, exact looks. Because there's this mentality with some people, they're like, well, we got to hold some stuff and we're going to be vanilla and we're going to show it. Chip Kelly is the opposite. He wants to show the craziest stuff that's ever existed in the history of mankind versus these really bad teams, because then Penn State's going to have to, you only have, when you coach as a college football coach, you get 40 hours a week with the kids. And you're on the field for 6 to 8 hours a week. So when you're running scout team, you got to rep this stuff. You got to rep, tackle over with J.J. Smith lined up as the tight end or the backside tackle or whatever. You got to rep all that stuff. And now Chip will put that out there, and there's a good chance that he never plans on using it versus these teams, but teams have to prepare for it. Again, like the gurus, like Bill Belichick when he did that stuff versus the Baltimore Ravens, when he had Shane Vereen line up ineligible and he's lined up with his 43 jersey on. And again, Google this. The Baltimore Ravens versus the Patriots, when they did the illegal formation, was one of the most genius things they ever did. They did it in the second half of the game. Baltimore couldn't adjust to it. That's the kind of stuff Chip Kelly's going to do. That's the kind of stuff that Chip Kelly. When he clinics with, he clinics with Bill Belichick and Saban and Urban and all of these elite offensive minds and guys that want to learn why he does what he does. It's because he likes to mess with the defensive coordinators, man. And, with that, with Will Howard, with the speed, with the two best tailbacks in the country, in my opinion, Quinshon and Trey Henderson, like, it's going to be the killing fields. And I cannot wait for it to happen. We're 2 weeks out from training camp. I pray on the rosary and light candles every night that these guys are all going to be healthy and ready to roll for the year, which I think they will be. And then we get to see the full display of what Chip Kelly can do with the most talented team he's ever had, bar none. Nevada, where are you at with that? Any thoughts?
Well, no, I agree with you. I want to see the fully operational Death Star kind of rolling through the thing. You always hate to see injuries, but this year especially, I don't want to be robbed of seeing it all happen. And fingers crossed. You never know what can happen. The good news is we're deep, we're talented, and we've had a great offseason. So I'm sure it'll continue into the fall.
Yeah, totally agree. Some of the guys you pointed out that starred, obviously, JJ's the easy one. Will Howard. I think G. Scott's the guy. G. Scott and Cody Stedman are kind of the under the radar guys that have been really fantastic throughout this whole summer. What have you heard about those two?
Well, he's a guy that, we've had a lot of questions about the tight end room and tight end room in general, about G in particular, about whether or not, he was capable. We talked about Jelani Thurman a lot. but G's really been a guy that's really turned it up. I mean, he's really had a great offseason, and frankly been a surprise to me that he's been as diligent, as kind of taken on kind of a leadership role, and really doing all the little things that you want to see from your guys. I mean, Cody to me is a little bit more obvious because Cody, I know I'd identified, a couple of years ago as being like potentially the next great linebacker at Ohio State. Had some devastating injuries, really kind of slow to get back. Last year flashed and really played well coming down the stretch. This year, clearly he's going to be the alpha dog, a captain, that material leader on the defense. The guy that's going to be Jim Knowles is going to be in the going to have the green dot or whatever it is on the helmet and do the communication with. So he's kind of an obvious one. But G has really turned it up, and as much as we bang on Keenan Bailey, I want to give him credit because if players don't do well, I think the position coach gets criticized, and when they do well, you got to praise the position coach. So, whatever they're saying to him, whatever they're doing with him, it's working because I think he's poised to have a really good fall and a really good season, and happy for him because he's a guy that stuck it out when it would have been easy for him to leave and go elsewhere, and he didn't, and he may be one of the sleepers of this team.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because this will be not all years for captain voting are created equal, but this is going to be very interesting because I think that there's a lot of momentum around Cody to be a captain along with Jack Sawyer. Jack Sawyer is a cinch. I think Emeka is a cinch. I think Trey is really close to being a cinch. But this is a different year. This is a year where you've got 8 to 10 guys that are legitimate captain type guys, and it's going to be real interesting to see what they end up doing because I think that Ryan's going to figure out if he wants to do 4 captains, 6 captains, 8 captains, but I think that it can't be a clown show. Like Urban, who I love to death, was a clown car with the captain stuff because he had 13 captains one year, which was the dumbest thing in the history of mankind because you can't have 13 captains. I know that he was trying to enhance guys' LinkedIn profiles and, oh, you were a captain at Ohio State and what does that do for your career? But like at some point, like it's just stupid. Like you have to have, I mean, and Ryan's been bad too because he's had guys that don't even play that have been captains. And like, you can't do that. You can't have a guy he's a full-time captain and he's, he plays 5, he runs down on kickoff. I'm like, you got to do it with guys that play. So I think this will be critical for him. But again, guys like Jack Sawyer, Cody Simon, defense is going to be tough, man, because you got JT Tumala, you got Denzel, you've got Lathan. I mean, you got some big-time captain prospects. JT Tumala, offensively, Donnie Jackson, Josh Fryer. Obviously, I think Emeka's a lock. I think it's critical, like when you're going through the captaincy, because we vote on captains, but it's rigged. The coaches always end up picking the captains, but it has to be a mix. It has to be guys at different levels of the team between, and by levels I mean like you got to have some linemen, you got to have some middle-sized guys, which is like linebackers, tight ends, and you have to have some speed guys, like some DBs and some receivers. It can't be all linemen. It can't be all receivers. You gotta have some white guys. You gotta have some black guys. This kind of is what it is. The history of Ohio State, you've never had it any other way. So, but you've got a good mix of legitimate guys that are tough guys, leaders. Like for me, it'd be Jack. It'd be Cody Simon. It'd be, the O-line's tough between Donnie and Josh. I think you take one of the two of those. Emeka, Trey. The hard part is like, when you've got a senior captain like Will Howard, it's like, he's been here for 7-8 months. Does he really warrant being a captain? But it'll tell us a lot about Ryan and what he thinks of Will and his leadership if he ends up naming him a captain. So I think it's going to be fascinating. What about we could wrap this thing up. Again, I apologize for being a little bit late today. Shout out Best Buy for making me late by an hour. But any final thoughts? We'll wrap the show up.
No, just great get in Jarquez Carter. Definitely a guy that I think is going to be that's underrated, but I think he's going to be a fan favorite by the time he leads. Really excited about him. Really excited about. We've got some big fish left, but this was a good one. Glad to get him in the boat, and just appreciate everybody. And we'll see you tomorrow night.
Yep, absolutely. Appreciate you guys as always. Thank you guys for kicking all this again. Apologize for being a touch late tonight. Shout out Best Buy. They made me a little bit late, but I hope you guys had a great night. If you enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe. Also click that little alert bell. Again, I appreciate you guys for all that you guys do on this show. Again, it was another great show, and we appreciate you guys for being here. So with that being said, shout out where you guys are watching from. Shout out who you guys are watching with. Again, tomorrow, back at the regular schedule time, 7 p.m. We'll be ready to rock. Again, we're getting close, guys. About 2 weeks away from training camp, so we'll have all the updates on BuckeyeScoop.com. If you guys have not joined BuckeyeScoop.com, it's the greatest thing you can ever do for your Ohio State fandom. It's absolutely fantastic. And again, I hope that you guys consider taking the leap into becoming the greatest Ohio State fans that have ever lived. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much, Buckeye Nation. Thank you, Scoop family. We will talk to you guys tomorrow. Go Bucks.